Hello, US 101 class. You are going to be in my late start, and the class will be beginning um, on the 30th officially. So basically, the end of this month. And I already have several students that thought it started earlier and ended up kind of in a panic mode, saying, "What's going on with this class?" No, it's not. It hasn't started yet. Now, some of you love. Of my students love the late start class. Others hate it. Um, I have to admit that for myself, I find the late start to be a little bit of a challenge as well. A challenge in the sense that I'm teaching the same the course that you get in a normal semester in a much reduced amount of time. So it essentially operates like a summer cram course. And what that means is that we're going to end up doing basically 2 weeks worth of work for each week. And so what I want to do is first of all, I want to encourage you and say, hey, I'm going to have your back. I'm going to work with you. And I have many, many students that have succeeded and done very well in my courses, in my, even though there's a lot of work. But it's something you need to keep in mind. You want to be prepared for. You're going to need to put away more time in your week. So if you don't really understand what class that you just set yourself up for, keep in mind that you have a shorter amount of time that the class will be, you have to be in the class, but we're going to actually have all the work taught in it. So you're going to be busy, and just be aware of that, okay? And I will work with you if you have an issue with late work, but you're going to want to need to figure out how to get the time in there, because it's going to be overwhelming to get behind in a late start class, okay? So please, please, please keep that in mind. You'll also notice that this is a textbook-free class, so you're going to have access to Howard Zen online. Howard Zen's People's History is very easy to get. So if you work better with having a textbook, that shouldn't be, that would be easy to get. And then I have an online textbook that'll just be something that you can look at if you want to just kind of cover the material, just like a basic, straightforward history textbook. The Howard Zen book is set up for a discussion. And there's a certain political bias to that book, and there's I will go into more details later about the expectations of this class and what you're going to use these sources for. Ultimately, my class, I try to create nuance. I want you to be able to engage and debate about the history that we're going to cover. Most of my students of all political backgrounds find the class to be engaging and learn a lot. Now, one of the things that many of you will already know this if you've been in college for a while, is that each professor can focus on different things. So I've had history classes where the instructor is in the sports and victory and military stuff. So he'll cover, the battles, and you'll go over a lot of the battles and the famous generals and some of the weapons and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of you who love that kind of history. And I'm never going to talk down on any, anything. I mean, whatever's happened in the past is the past. So you can cover anything, and that's legit, and it's interesting. But I'm really going to what I always try to do is focus on the big questions that shape our country, because we're so contentious right now. There's so many of these cultural wars. What do we make of the background and our actions that lead up to the Declaration of Independence? What about the issue of our totalitarian system that we mixed with a republican system? When I say totalitarian, I mean slavery, right? Because slavery is totalitarian. But we often don't think about it that way. And of course, the United States wasn't uniquely doing this totalitarian system that has been a part of history, but it was a totalitarian system nonetheless. Um, but also, we are we formed a country that had a very unique set of developments that many people admired, and we addressed successfully in many ways how to deal with the topic of religion. When Europe was killing each other over religious wars, the United States was able to actually neutralize that as a political problem and allowed Americans to worship more freely on their own. So I guess what I'm just trying to point out is that my class, I'm going to say I'm going to cover many different outlooks that different political ideologies could look at through a particular lens and say something is positive, or you could say it's negative. But we will be engaging with that. When I moved up to Portland, Oregon for a decade, I made much more friends that are indigenous to this land, and put that perspective for me as well about Native American, in other words, the people here that actually live on reservations and still speak their own language and still have ties to their own culture. That was an interesting perspective for me to really take more thought into. I try to also incorporate world history into each week's module because I want us to not feel so isolated. Our history seems to be, we look at our history in a very isolated way. But of course, just like everywhere in the world, sets of events take place and they're also a part of a broader picture as well. So I'm going to be trying to, help us out with that. And ultimately, I'm just kind of trying to give you an idea of just like how the class will go about. It's not going to be a multiple choice question class. It's going to be papers, discussions, and video notes. You're going to watch documentaries, my lectures, and you're going to write the notes. You're going to have robust discussions in the class, and then you're going to write short papers about it. And this is the routine that'll go. So I'll go over all this more later, but I just wanted to get everybody some time to think about how this class is going to go about once you get into it finally. And right now I'm teaching 2 other classes. When you write to me on Canvas, it'll tell me which class you're from. But when students write me an email, a lot of times students will tell me something and say, they'll ask me a question and it's vague and I don't even know which class they're coming from. Like are you in my 101? I have 2 101s, so like which 101? And so the best place to get a hold of me moving forward is going to be directly through Canvas in the message section, because that way, again, it's going to help me pinpoint you down on which class you're in, and it doesn't get muddled up with all my other emails. But if you send me an email outside of Canvas, I'm still going to look to answer it. I'm just recommending writing to Canvas directly. So I hope this is helpful, and I look forward to meeting all of you, and I hope that you're going to be able to enjoy this class despite the fact that it's going to be rigorous and it's going to move along quickly. So yeah, we will be in touch.